Hi, welcome to Music Tech. This is the HP Envy X360 13-inch. It's an AMD-powered 2-in-1 laptop with the latest Ryzen 4000 series CPU. It has 8GB of RAM and a 256GB SSD. The screen is a 1080p 60Hz IPS panel. This configuration goes for around 10,000 Swedish crowns. That's about $1,000 here in Sweden, with taxes and shipping at the time of this recording. In this review, we're gonna see how it performs, how it sounds, how it looks, how it feels, and if it's worth your money. Now let's go over the ports. On the left, we have a headset jack, a USB-A and a USB-C port that is not Thunderbolt 3 capable due to the Ryzen CPU, but it has support for charging and display output. And on the right, you have the power connector and another USB-A port, as well as a micro SD card reader. I'm not gonna open the laptop because it's not user serviceable according to HP. You can open it, but it's quite difficult and I need to return this laptop, so I won't do it. If you're interested in what's in the box, there's not much you'll get, only the laptop, some documentation and a charger. And the box is really big for such a small laptop. The chassis is all metal and feels super sturdy and looks nice too. Overall build quality is great. The keyboard is very nice and has a good feel on the keys. Keys are nice and large with good spacing between them. You have a dedicated shutter key for the webcam that deploys a physical shutter in front of the webcam for privacy. It has a fingerprint reader next to the arrow keys. There are two levels of white backlighting, with both being pretty bright. A bit too bright if you're in a real dark room. There's no noticeable flex on the keyboard deck and it feels a little bit better than the Asus ZenBook 14. Which I also reviewed. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. The trackpad uses Windows Precision drivers and feels good for a Windows laptop. Not as good as a MacBook, but better than your average Windows laptops. All gestures work as you would expect, and the texture is a bit rough and it gives you a bit of resistance, so if you like to glide around easily on your trackpad, then you probably wouldn't like this. Personally, I like smoother trackpads. The screen is great for productivity and some very light gaming. It's a bright 1080p touch panel with good contrast, a wide color gamut, bezels are nice and small, the webcam is on the top bezel, pixel response time is a bit better than the ZenBook 14 but not even close to HP Omen 15 that also uses a 60Hz IPS panel. But overall it's a very good screen. The battery is 51 watt-hours and will last you about 10 hours, and that's great. Not quite as good as the ZenBook 14 but surely good enough for the price. The speakers are surprisingly good with a lot of volume and some bass even. Very good for watching movies in bed with your girl or your boyfriend. It's easy to cover up the speakers, but they still produce good enough sound, but not as good as a MacBook Pro or the ZenBook 14 in my opinion. They are above average for Windows laptops. Here's a little sample compared to the ZenBook 14. I recorded this with my iPhone 11 Pro Max. And now for some benchmarks. There are 4 different modes you can run this laptop in. The recommended by HP mode, performance mode, comfort mode, and the silent mode. I ran all the tests with the laptop plugged in using the recommended by HP mode. And here are the results. In Cinebench R20 we scored about 2100 points, and that is a great result for a laptop this thin and light. If we compare that score to the ZenBook 14 with the Intel i7, that one scored about 1200 points. Okay, the Intel is a quad-core with hyper-threading, and the Ryzen is a 6-core without hyper-threading. But still, the difference in performance is pretty big. The SSD speed is pretty good, with read speeds of about 2300 megabytes per second and write speeds about 900 megabytes per second. If we take a look at the lower file size transfer speeds, we can see that they are pretty high, and that makes the laptop feel really snappy and fast if you're doing basic tasks. Gaming performance is excellent for a small machine like this. It was outperforming the i7 1065G7 that was in the ZenBook 14 by quite a bit. The ZenBook i7 did not go over 1.8 GHz under load, as with the Ryzen CPU it was stable at 3.3 GHz, and that's a huge difference. The fans, or just one fan in this case, was not that loud under load, but it did have a high-pitched noise to it. Have a listen. And another strange thing was that the fan would not turn off even if the laptop was running on battery power and in silent mode. This was pretty annoying, but the chassis was much cooler to the touch compared to the ZenBook 14. But neither laptop is suited for heavier work on the lap or in bed, as the fan intake vents are on the bottom of the laptop. One strange thing I encountered was when I inserted a device into the USB-A port. It was really hard to get it out. It was stuck inside the port and I had to use a lot of force to get it out. For an example, if you stick a USB mouse dongle from, say, Logitech, that's a really small dongle, you'll have a very hard time removing it. So now let's go over the good, the bad, and if it's worth your money. The good: the performance on both the CPU and the GPU. The keyboard, the trackpad, the screen is really bright, and the build quality is great. It has an all-metal chassis with good thermals and great battery life. And the cons: the fans stay on all the time even if the laptop is unplugged. It's a fingerprint magnet. There's no Thunderbolt 3 port, there's no IR camera. The screen is very reflective, but it makes up for it with the brightness. There's virtually no upgradability except for the SSD, and USB devices are very hard to remove from the Type A ports. And do I recommend this laptop? Yes, absolutely. If you need or want a thin and small but maybe not the lightest laptop for a good price, then you can buy this. And stay away from the Intel models. Those are more expensive and have worse performance. And don't make the mistake of buying the last year's model with Ryzen 3000 series CPUs. I've seen the new and the old models sitting side by side on store shelves with basically the same price, so be sure to look out for what you're buying. If you like this review, then leave a like, and if you didn't like it, then leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments. Do you own one of these laptops? How has your experience been using it? Please let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again sometime in the future.